Something I've never fully agreed with is the idea that everybody gets closure. I don't think they do. I think a lot of people spend years waiting for closure from somebody who's never going to give it to them. And while they're waiting, life keeps moving. Think about how many people are waiting for an apology, waiting for an explanation, waiting for somebody to admit that they were wrong, waiting for somebody to understand the damage they caused. And the truth is, a lot of people never get that. So what happens then? I think one of the hardest things for people to accept is that some questions never get answered. You never find out why somebody left. You never find out why somebody betrayed you. You never find out why somebody chose addiction over their family. You never find out why somebody treated you the way they did. And I think people struggle with that because our brains want things to make sense. We want a reason. We want a story. We want something we can point to and say, that's why. But maybe closure isn't an answer. Maybe closure is acceptance. Maybe closure isn't understanding what happened. Maybe closure is accepting that it happened. And those are two completely different things. And I think a lot of people spend years chasing understanding when what they actually need is acceptance. I've noticed something about pain. Pain always asks questions. Why me? Why did this happen? Why didn't they care? Why wasn't I enough? And sometimes those questions help people heal. But sometimes those questions keep people trapped because they're searching for answers that don't exist. One thing I've learned is that life doesn't always make sense. And honestly, I think that's one of the hardest lessons people have to learn. Because fairness isn't guaranteed. Justice isn't guaranteed. Understanding isn't guaranteed. Sometimes all you get is the experience. And then it's your job to decide what you do with it. I think that's where accountability enters the conversation. Not accountability for what happened, but accountability for what happens next. Because there are things that happen to people that absolutely were not their fault. Not even close. But eventually, every person reaches a crossroads. And that crossroads asks one question. What now? What now after the betrayal? What now after the addiction? What now after prison? What now after the trauma? What now after the divorce? What now after the loss? Because eventually, life stops asking what happened and starts asking, what are you going to do next? And I think that's where a lot of growth happens. Not when people get answers, but when they stop needing them. Think about that. That's a completely different mindset. You stop needing somebody else's apology to move forward. You stop needing somebody else's explanation to heal. You stop needing somebody else's permission to change. Maybe closure isn't getting the answer. Maybe closure is deciding you're done carrying the question. Maybe closure isn't something another person gives you. Maybe it's something you give yourself. And if that's true, then a lot more people are capable of moving forward than they realize. Because that power was never in the answer. The power was in the decision.